it's nothing wrong just to stop and say, quick text, how are you doing today? Is everything okay? That text could make a world of difference, I'm sure, and you can, expound on that. That could make a world of difference for someone living with HIV.
It does, and I think that where, like you say, the epiphany moment came in was the fact that I shared with them that there are moments where it's not just a being low in spirit. It's not just being depressed. It's not just being, oh, I just don't want to do it anymore, and I just don't want to get up out of the bed. I just don't want to go to work. Because the response was, well, a whole lot of people feel like that, and they're not living with HIV. So what's different for a person living with HIV versus someone who's not? The difference is we have it more often. And it is a side effect for some of us of our medication that depression is kind of wrapped into your whole regimen. And it's kind of something that you kind of have to know when it's there, know how to deal with it, know how to know the triggers, know how to pull yourself up. If it's a phone call, if it's a text message, if it's music like it is for me, do whatever you need to do to finally get to a place where you are ready to live life again.
And I think that what we have to do too is define what emotional support is for you.
For you.
Everybody has a different journey. And that was another thing I think that was even amazing in that moment too, because it wasn't just the fact that the family member had this moment was like, well, maybe I should pick up the phone or check on you more emotionally or mentally. It was like they had a whole new concept or a whole new thought process about the stress that you have just living your everyday life. And so, I have diabetes. It's manageable. I take my medicine. I check my blood sugars. I try to have a healthy diet. And, it's pretty manageable and I keep it moving. But it was like when you made a statement of how much your medication costs. That was a whole nother, because it was like, well, I guess the family member was almost like I never thought about the stress of, how much medication costs, or even if you're at work and you have a job, maybe you don't like your job, but you can't leave your job because your job is providing the medication. So there were layers of this. So I think that, again, what would you define support as, or emotional support as, for yourself?
What I would define as emotional support for me is to get an opportunity to know the real David. Not just the David that comes into town and is there for a specific purpose. Because most of the time when I'm going into cities, I'm there to work. I'm there to sing. I'm there to minister. I'm there to speak. But rarely do I get an opportunity to just hang out. So for me, emotional support is just hanging out with me. Just, talking about life, talking about the good old days, talking about, what life was like when I was growing up. Because there are some times that I remember most things I can remember, but there are other times that I may have forgotten. Or I just need another reminder of, there was a time where I wasn't seen as this virus. There was a time in my life where I was just seen as someone who loved life and that was it. But now it seems that there are some rooms where I walk into and I'm seen as the virus first. And then they have to be snapped out of, but he looks good. And he looks like he's okay. He looks like he's doing fine, when most of those times it's just a mask for you. Because I don't want you to break down.
Right.
Because I want you to be okay.
Right.
So when we're talking about emotional support, it really does go both ways. So it's not just me emotionally supporting you, and you have to emotionally support me as well. But it's important for you to ask the question, how can I support you emotionally? How can I take off some stressors? What are your triggers? Those are important things to know and ask.
Well, I think that that's a great, a great place to pause too, because again, we don't know what people are dealing with that are watching this video, but if you are a person living with HIV or you're someone that's supporting them, ask those questions. Ask them, how do they need to be supported, and don't be afraid of the answer.
Exactly.
And again, support does go both ways.